All right, welcome to part 3 of my expose on the Newberg Equity and Education Mafia. We're just going to jump right into this because there's so much to go through. I'm just going to start right where I left off in the last video. Oregon Board of Education abuses to assist need. Now that I have explained the state laws, I want to show the following thread. While it has been quite a read for you until this part, this is where you will understand how sinister the need group activities really are. There's Debbie Toft, who's one of the teachers at the school. Can we file a formal complaint with the district that names Renee Powell, Trevor DeHart, Dave Brown, and Brian Shannon, who are the conservative majority on the school board who voted to ban Black Lives Matter? Or wanted to. They hadn't done it by this point. Not a comment or email to the board, but a formal complaint to the district. Blah, blah, blah. Then they have all these things that they can file complaints for, which are all sent to the Oregon the Oregon Board of Education, the Department of Education, I should say. Here's Lupita, who, as I've previously mentioned, is the Oregon Department of Education Board Vice Chair, Guadalupe Martinez Zapata. That's who Lupita is. And she says, yes, you can most certainly report to the Oregon Department of Education. She says, the complaints that have been filed with Oregon Department of Education are receiving a response that provides that complaint path, and that Oregon Department of Education is in receipt of the complaint. It also has compelled Oregon Department of Education to look into what's happening, whilst remaining impartial, of course. Wink, wink. Wink, wink, guys. There's no wink, wink there, but that's implied. They're not impartial. She's literally the vice chair, and she's giving them a back channel communication on what is happening with their complaints. She's also telling them to file the complaints. This is illegal. She is providing special secret advice outside of the official channels for this kind of complaint, encouraging members of need to file complaints against the Newberg School Board members she politically opposes, and claiming that the Department of Education will still carry out an impartial investigation, despite herself clearly showcasing obvious favoritism to the need members. This is further evidence of the insidious nature of the Oregon Department of Education and the activities of the need group. Continuing on with the thread, a part comes up I want to share. In this section, they talk about how the Oregon Democrats are trying to force the indoctrination of critical race theory onto all the elected officials of the school boards. I'm not going to read it all. You'll have to read the original article if you want to read that particular thing. There's just so much for me to cover. I'm not even halfway through this article yet. These people hate America. Why are they in charge of educating our kids? Here she is ranting here again about how terrible America is. More insanity, filtering of all her bad experiences she has with someone or something through the lens of her race. She's literally the vice chair of the Oregon Board of Education. Somehow, she is still a powerless, marginalized victim. Her narcissism is off the charts. Casey Kula activities within the Mafia group. I haven't seen many posts from him within it, to be honest, but his communications are clearly coordinated with them, since he likes their posts and he's published his own statement in support of Need's agenda, and as a member of the group, he is aware of their postings, including their criminal activities. See, he liked this post here about from the Need group. So, City of Newberg employees and appointees. We'll talk more about Casey Kula and his role in the conspiracy later when we talk about what happens if they get the conservative majority of the board to resign. It would then, their belief is that county commissioners get to appoint new members to the board, which Casey Kula is part of. That's how he really fits into this. But that's later in the article where I talk about that stuff. City of Newberg employees and appointees in the Need Mafia. Several city employees, elected officials, and board appointees are in the Need Mafia group. Here's a list of people on the committee for the City of Newberg, and then here are the people I was able to identify. Melissa Collett Daly, who's on the Affordable Housing Committee member. Shannon Eoff, who's an Affordable Housing Committee member. Larry Hampton, Affordable Housing Committee member. Carol Alexander, Affordable Housing Committee member. Let's see, Elise Yarnell Holloman, who is a City of Newberg counselor, and she's also the head of Urban Renewal, and she's also a director of access strategies at Providence Health and Service, the hospital in town. Exploiting her position in the community to serve the agenda of the cult she belongs to. Here they have put up a sign in front of the Providence Hospital, a permanent sign, she says. We'll see how permanent after this comes out. that has all the critical race theory buzzwords on it, you see. Greg Meehan, who is married to Suzanne Meehan, who is on the library committee, is on the budget committee of Newberg. This is all Newberg City Council, by the way. So they've already, I think, broken some quorum laws, public meeting laws, by having so many members of a single committee in this group, which is engaging in all this activity. Melody Mildenberg, who's on the Citizens Rate Committee. Ryan Howard, who, as you might have met, if you watched the first part of my video, he is an attorney in town, and he's on the Historic Preservation Committee. Jeff Greider is a Traffic Safety Committee member. Shannon Buckmaster is Economic Health Manager at City of Newberg, and also, like all the other ones, a member of the Newberg Equity and Education Group. Erin Harrington, who works at Chehalem Park and Recreational District. She's a member of the group. And I'll talk about the library employees now. Shouldn't surprise anyone, since controlling the library is key to their agenda to indoctrinate children into critical race theory, as per the post I previously shared earlier in this article. The library is the primary public education resource outside of the schools. This is the Newberg Public Library Advisory Board appointees who were chosen by Mayor Rick Rogers. Okay, and who you see on there? You see Suzanne Meehan, Newberg Public Library Chair. She's part of NEED. And here she is posting within the group. Okay, talking about critical race theory. Corey Jones Burkle, children's librarian at Newberg Public School. Here she is, posting about herself in a public group. This isn't in the NEED group, but she posts and mentions that she's a children's librarian at the group. And make no mistake, they're using the public library to indoctrinate the children of our town into their ideology that teaches them democracy in America is evil. See? Here she is making a post about all these critical race theory books that they're teaching as part of a book club at the Newberg Public Library. Shouldn't shock anyone that Newberg Public Library is still closed at the time that I write this article, even when every other public building has long been open. They claim it's still closed because of COVID, but it wouldn't surprise me if they are purging our otherwise prized library book collection, one of the oldest in Oregon, to fill it with books that support their cult's ideology. Fact is, the recreational center across the street from the library is open, and library staff are part of NEED, and they have been pushing critical race theory books to kids via a book club program. It's not hard to imagine or think what is taking place inside our town's library is just more of the same shenanigans the NEED members do in every other part of our town. Personally, this angers me the most. I loved our public library as a kid. Without our public library's collection, I wouldn't be the person I am today. They are robbing children of their futures with this insidious evil they are doing in our community. Here's a list of who I think are important Newberg school teachers and faculty who are part of the NEED Mafia. Let's start with the elected members of the school board who are members of this criminal enterprise. Inez Pena Anaya, okay, Brandy Kaufman-Penner, and Rebecca Pyros. There's the proof that they're members of the Mafia, okay? Here's, of course, some other evidence from within the group. Here's a message that Rebecca Pyros had AJ Swans post into the NEED group on July 7th, asking for members of the NEED to overwhelm the school board public comments with letters of support for her to be chosen as the board chair, so that she could claim that she should be the board chair, of course. Here's her husband, Gene Pyros, posting Rebecca's exciting day on September 1st, into the NEED group as well, by the way. Interviewed by KPTV regarding tonight's meeting and a lovely visit of support from young people. I cried thinking of all the children I work for and their families. Thank you all for helping me. So we can clearly see that this was not Gene Pyros who wrote this. It says, I cried. Thank you all for helping me. This is Rebecca using her husband's account to post into the group. And who's there? Oh, it's Aaron McCarthy, the one who hanged the enormous Black Lives Matter and transracial pride flags on her property in view of the school. Of course she's a member. Brandy Kaufman posting into it as well. Posting in about the December 8th, 2020 Newberg School Board meeting. I think, if I recall correctly, she was chair of the school board at the time. Here she is posting into the group about that meeting. As detailed in a previous section of this article, they are key members of NEED and collude with other members, making nefarious schemes and how to deceive the public about their collusion while coordinating a campaign of fear and intimidation against the other elected board members. While most of NEED appears to consist of teacher union memberships, and as such, I believe it's an extension of their union activities that trespasses into racketeering, as I will discuss later in the article. This is a list of Newberg School District employees who are part of the online Mafia group I think are notable for their positions. Just be aware there are far more teachers in NEED than just this. You have to download my spreadsheet that has like 600 people in it or something, and to see the full list of who's in it. Casey Petrie, principal of Chehalem Valley Middle School. Greg Hayworth Koskela, communications coordinator and bond manager at Newberg School District, and he's also a former pastor at the Newberg Friends Church. Elaine Koskela, Newberg High School Catalyst Success Coordinator. Karen Pugsley, administrator. Karen Dudley, school psychologist at the district office. Kim Anderson Steffen, she works at the schools according to her Facebook profile, but she's not in the employee database. Erin Farley Dobius, she's part of the Mountain View Middle School counselor. That's what she is. Jeff McDonough, who's a school counselor at Chehalem Valley Middle School. Kreis Williams, who's Newberg High School Catalyst Alternative Education Teacher Assistant. Owen Lowe, instructional assistant at Newberg, one of the schools. Joshua Reed, who's a school counselor at Newberg High School Catalyst, and she's also a leader for Pride Flag Newberg. David James, assistant principal at Newberg Edwards School, board member at large at Oregon Association for Bilingual Education, and director position 1 at the Tigard Tualatin School Board. Yes, he's also in the Tigard School Board as well. Drew Gallagher, Newberg High School social studies teacher and vice president of the Newberg Education Association Teachers Union. Cassandra Thonstead, Newberg assistant principal at Mountain View. Jennifer DePriest, Newberg School's Mabel Rush school counselor. Jody Dole Jones, Newberg School District Edwards kindergarten teacher. Tim Graham, Newberg School Catalyst principal. Nicole Miller Hyatt, behavioral health special education coordinator at Newberg Public Schools. Shyla Jasper, Newberg High School student and family advocate. Jess Pendergraph, Newberg High School secretary register. Vicki Klein, Newberg School, Mountain View Middle School, bookkeeper. Reed Landon, Newberg School District Dundee principal. Tim Lawyer, Newberg School District Mabel Rush principal. Kaylee Tolley, Newberg High School secretary, Flexible Learning Center. And here's proof that they're all part of the group. Here's all their faces, all their postings. I know it's a lot. I told you it's a rabbit hole. It's a rabbit hole. As detailed early in this essay, I couldn't find evidence of Joe Morlock posting inside the group, although communications with him are mentioned by NEED members. I find it difficult to believe he has no knowledge about the NEED group given its activities, large roster of school faculty who are members, and his close ties to leaders of it, such as Kristen Stoller. Again, I was able to find this group and get inside of it within less than 48 hours of trying to do so. Joe Morlock literally works with these people every day. If he doesn't know this is going on, then he's probably the most incompetent superintendent in all of human history and should still be fired. At any result, I'm pretty sure a superintendent's job is to make sure things like NEED don't gain this kind of absurd power and control over the school district. And he's failed in that duty. It doesn't matter how many years a person has spent in education or what positions they have had, if that experience is useless at preventing these kinds of abuses from becoming rampant in all of the schools in the school district. Joe Morlock has failed the school, its students, and the residents of Newberg, and I believe he should be fired from employment at the district, along with everyone else who is part of NEED. I also want to mention that one of their rank members of NEED is Heidi Hopkins, a wellness teacher that provides mentorship to students. This is her page. I have it right here, sorry. The link for her page is there. According to the Newberg City website, she's held these little sessions for students, mindfulness for elementary students. Wonderful. Here's a public statement Heidi made. where she insults people for being cis whites and makes it clear her agenda is not about wellness, but to indoctrinate young kids into her fringe political beliefs. Education system was designed by white cis het folks. We continue to hold the majority of leadership positions. Priorities, values, blah, blah, blah. Here she is, ranting several times about white people, especially white heterosexual people. Lovely. These are the people who are the teachers in our town who are clearly indoctrinating children into their madness. They hate America. They hate the democratic process of our republic. They see our history only in a negative light, and they have a fanatical obsession with other people's sexualities, genders, and ethnicities. These people are the only organized racist and sexist bigots I have been able to locate in the town of Newberg during my investigation. Every single individual should be fired from the school, and they should have their teaching licenses suspended. I would go so far as to suggest everything that is legally possible should be done to get the entire teacher union out of our school district. It's been used to organize a criminal conspiracy. It's corrupt beyond the point of redemption. I am hopeful there is something in this article I have shown that is grounds for termination of all agreements with the teacher union by the Newberg School Board. I just haven't spent the time to investigate this area yet. What's the definition of conflict of interest legally? There's multiple classes of laws in effect here, the federal laws and the state laws. Oregon statute law defines conflict of interest claims. Chapter 244, government ethics definitions. Actual conflict of interest is any action or decision or recommendation by a person acting in a capacity as a public official, the effect of which would be to the private pecuniary benefit or detriment of the person, or the person's relative, or any business with which person or relative of the person associated. Business means any corporation, partnership, proprietorship, firm, enterprise, franchise, association, organization, self-employed individual, or any legal entity operated for economic gain. Any individual for whom the public official provides benefits arising from the public official's public employment, or from whom the public official receives benefits arising from the individual's employment. Interesting. It's also interesting in that I cannot find a specific definition in the law for what benefit means in this context, so it must therefore be the common definition for benefit, which can have many forms. Look at some of the statements of Guadalupe Martinez Zapata within the NEED group. On August 4th, she says that she had her son sign a petition and asked him to forward to all of his friends to sign a petition against the Black Lives Matter pride flag. While acting in her official capacity as the Oregon Board of Education director, Guadalupe Martinez Zapata admitted to asking relatives to sign an election. Oh, this might actually be the recall. I think this actually is the recall. Asked to sign an election recall for a school board member, encouraged them to ask others to do so. While as a private individual, she can most certainly express her viewpoints. Within the NEED group, Guadalupe Martinez Zapata is speaking to members of a PAC and a teacher union that is heavily intertwined with the activities of the PAC. Incredibly illegal behavior, again, Oregon statute, solicitation of public employees. It is long held that the legal definition for coerce is any request made by a supervisor or someone with any jurisdiction over those below them, since refusal of the request could impact their job and how that supervisor treats them, such as giving them more work or denial of promotion or other penalties. This is why managers who ask an employee beneath them on dates are considered to be engaging in sexual harassment, and the relationship cannot legally be considered consensual due to the power the manager holds over the employees in their capacity as a superior. I believe the interpretation of coerce applies here to this situation. This is because as a member of the Oregon Board of Directors that governs over schools, she is coercing the teachers of a local Newberg union, who are also public employees under her jurisdiction, into supporting the recall by telling them she's asking others to sign the recall. She has told them this because her desire is for them to also sign the recall petition, encouraged others to do so. And her comments were embraced. Finally, if you still refuse to accept she was acting in her official capacity as a representative of the Oregon Department of Education Vice Chair, here she is carrying out official duties in that capacity within the group, sharing opinion. This seems like a worthy, well-informed perspective, sharing information about anti-racist math education. Math education comes up again, doesn't it? Know of any future or current STEM students of color, please ask them to apply to a scholarship here. Distribution of educational news articles and information about scholarships that students can apply for is part of her job duties at the Oregon Department of Education. It could even be argued that her messaging to these members about financial aid opportunities could be regarded as illegal, since she is rewarding the members of need with special and exclusive access to her as the vice chair of the Oregon Department of Education. This kind of relationship in return for people to carry out her will in political campaigning is prohibited, again, under solicitation of public employees. Likewise, I believe the public employees, such as the Newberg School faculty members who are members of the need group, have violated Oregon Statute 260.432 in this way. No public employee shall solicit, influence, service, other thing of value, otherwise promote or oppose political committee or promote or oppose the nomination, election of a candidate, gathering of signatures on initiative, referendum, or recall petition, the adoption of a measure, or the recall of public office. While it limits to working hours, the line is deeply blurred when so many teacher union members are part of the need group, and they post into it at all hours of the day, throughout the day, constantly, including during school hours, and are actually rallying the students to protest alongside them, who they recruit during working hours. As such, Guadalupe Martinez Zapata, any Newberg School faculty member who is part of NEED, has committed official misconduct in the first degree. There is evidence, which, as I said before, is a felony as well. I didn't put it here, but I had it earlier, that that's a felony. Actually, no, it's a misdemeanor, a Class A misdemeanor. Sorry. There is evidence for the relationship with her to reap rewards. There's evidence for the relationship the NEED members have with her to reap rewards. Here she is posting a congratulations to Brandy Kaufman-Penner for becoming the first school board advisor to the Oregon State Board of Education. Oh, isn't that such a great honor? Such a great honor to give to your fellow Mafia members. And then, of course, here's everybody else applauding this. Posted within the NEED group. As I said before, this is all evidence of public corruption crimes. Critical race theory is an ideology that allows criminals to justify their crimes while running around pointing the finger at everybody else, pretending to be virtuous when they're really just another scumbag ruining good things for everybody else. Newberg Public Schools board members and their activities as part of the NEED Mafia. Here is a list of the Newberg School Board members, and I've highlighted the members who are members of NEED, members of the Mafia. Brandy Kaufman-Penner seems to have been one of the founding members. In fact, here are one of the messages she posted inside the NEED group in August of 21st. Okay, posted a message in here. Here's Brandy giving members of NEED special access to insert their questions and comments outside of the official channels for the public to submit to the board. Here she is right there doing that, okay? I have an ask for the NEED community. In preparing for the August 10th board meeting, I'm compiling a list of detailed questions related to the proposed ban on all flags, posters, and play cards. I have several questions. Appreciate you sharing any questions that you have so I can pass them on to the board at the meeting. The motion, down 51 of the meeting packet that she included in the group. And here's all the questions that they asked. Here's the collusion. Okay. Note that at the time I grabbed these screens, Brandy seems to have recently left the group. Like, she's currently not a member of the group. At least her Facebook account is not in the group. But as these archive posts are still in the group, it shows that she has been a longtime member of it and has been part of the illicit criminal conspiracy. She was not smart enough to delete her post before she left it, and so the evidence of her subterfuge while serving on the school board has remained, and now you see it as well. As an aside, I think it is hilarious. A group of people who are advocating for an ideology they use to justify committing all the crimes their group routinely makes honestly believes this ideology will pass the Tinker test, because they talk about the Tinker test. It won't. And this article is evidence why it won't. Critical race theory has literally turned an entire school district into a mafia. Rebecca Pyrus is a member as well. Don't you find the audacity of these NEED members to be something else? If anyone has watched the Newberg School Board meeting live streams, you can hear Brandy Kaufman-Penner and Rebecca Norton-Pyrus frequently make jabs about how they think the other council members are meeting without them. That's literally what they're doing themselves. Here's another one. Another message from Rebecca Pyrus on July 7th, where she's asking people to send in certain emails to the group so they can pretend there's all this public support. Okay? I am asking for your letters of support. The Need school directors use the Need Mafia to try to help them claim there is a huge amount of support for them, when in reality, there's only a few hundred of them in this Mafia group. The city has a population of around 23,000 people, but the Need members believe they need to control everything, and so they play these games that probably violate the council rules while they obsess over trivial nonsense, trying to find ways to get the board members to resign or change their votes that are illegal. By the way, board member Anise Pinas, she's also in the group as well. So of the Newberg School Board, 3 of the dissenting votes against the political flag bans are the people who are the members of Need Mafia. Real shocker, right, guys? Here's the reality about these people. They don't believe in the rules and the laws. When these things get in the way of their crusade, they break them. When they serve the crusade by trying to force their will on other people, they aggressively seek to enforce those rules, no matter how trivial, in a mad effort to snatch power and gain control. What the majority of Need members care about is virtue signaling. Almost no action they take is not unannounced to the group, because their actions are just a kind of theatrical stunt designed to solicit applause from other members of the Need group for how virtuous they are. Here's an example. Someone, Jerry Witherspoon, sharing a copy of an email she sent to Trevor DeHart on the school board. They share it in the group so they can all get likes and applause and be told how amazing that they are and how brave and virtuous and other horseshit that they think they are. The Need group has these kinds of posts often. You know what they don't do, though? Is have solutions to actual problems. Everything is focused inward on themselves and how stunning and brave they are for telling someone off using the group's terminology and talking points, letting other people think for them. They don't care about how any of this stuff is a major distraction from actual problems and is instead wasting time and resources in a small town that has real issues that need dealing with. This is what critical race theory does to people. It makes them into criminal assholes who break the laws and rules, harass others when they don't get their way, and then disrupt others' attempts to improve things. How much time do you think gets wasted in these school board meetings debating nonsense, like whether to use the word guys to refer to a group of people? Give me a break. And this complaint came from Anais, whose native language, Spanish, consists of gendered language to a far more intense degree than English does. The entire English language and how everyone speaks that language does not need to shift just because she and other people are in a cult that makes them delusional. If you feel people using gendered language makes you depressed, that is something for you to discuss with a good therapist, instead of insisting how English has been structured for centuries must change to meet your demands. The only person who would demand such a thing is a narcissistic virtue signaler who doesn't care about anyone but themselves. And you know what? I don't think narcissistic psychos who form secret mobs and harass people illegally to intimidate them into changing votes or resigning from elected positions should be school board members or city council members or anything in government. By the way, the reason that the Need Mafia school board members want to change the way that community members speak to meetings is because they are trying to stack the meetings to overwhelm the minutes of the meeting with their supporters. Because the Need members control the teachers' union, they therefore also control the students, because the teachers are the authority figures to the students. They grade their papers, they lead the classes, they can send them to detention and so on. They form bonds with the teachers. Teachers have enormous power over the students and are manipulating the kids of Newberg to support the Need cult activities, because most of the Newberg public school faculty are in the Need group. So what they want to do is have their hand-picked students overwhelm the request to comment forms. And then they want the teachers to speak next because they control the student union. The teachers union, not the student union. The desires of the Need board members should not be complied with. I'm going to fix that. The desires of the Need board members should not be complied with because they are just trying to manipulate the board and create a false perception their activity is moral when it is actually evil. The Need group are very upset that they don't have control over the school board anymore, where they frequently gave special access to their Need Mafia members since the board members controlled it. Here's post May 28th, AJ Swans, notes and quotes from the budget committee member. Access that I suspect must be against the rules, since they keep making such a big deal about how they imagine other board members to be talking outside of meetings. The reality is that all of these white allies are just puppets. This is why it is a cult. Once they gain a seat in government, they turn their decision-making over to people who are marginalized per their special cultist definition of the word. Tay Hardin-Moore and her activity inside the Need group. Tay Hardin-Moore is, of course, the primary leader of the Mafia arm here in Newberg, while other officials coordinate with her from their offices outside of town. Ty's primary motive is not really about the pride flags, and she is fixated on the Black Lives Matter issue, and as is typical for black separatists such as herself, manipulating the whites with rhetoric that has to do with them, such as those who are in the LGBTQ community. She actually gets very upset when Black Lives Matter is not represented enough. She is responsible for putting the Black Lives Matter flag up on Aaron McCarthy's property after she saw it wasn't included in McCarthy's initial virtue signaling, and here is her talking about that in the group. And here is Tay complaining about Black Lives Matter flags not being carried by the white accomplices of her cult. Here she is saying, don't lose sight of the fact that Black Lives Matter flags are also at issue here and are also under attack by our school board. Important because Black Lives Matter is left out of discussion, not advocated for as staunchly as folks are advocating for pride. There's potential of harm. Black students, others of color, already feel they aren't cared for in the community. I'm personally seeing a major focus on pride, and it's beginning to feel as though BLM is an afterthought, and I don't like it. So I'm calling it out here so we can address and correct this going forward. And they all say, yes, ma'am, yes. Yes. The members of the Need Mafia basically treat Tay Hardin-Moore like their queen. And I believe that is what the ideology of critical race theory used by Black Lives Matter groups tends to result in. Because the ideology preaches that whites have power unjustly and illegitimately, they must right this wrong by becoming an ally, a subservient role, to the minorities, specifically those who are black, because that's what Black Lives Matter is all about. This results in members becoming fanatical in their desire to prove how virtuous they are by becoming an ally to someone who is actually very nefarious and has convinced them of non-existent blood debts that are owed to her because of her ancestry, even if their direct ancestors didn't have a damn thing to do with anything that happened to Tay Hardin-Moore's ancestors. Here are some examples of their fanatical devotion to Tay Hardin-Moore. Okay, here's where they're trying to remove my posts because I criticize Tay Hardin-Moore's support for racism and called out that the Newberg Graphic was not mentioning that she is an employee of the school district as a contractor, diversity consultant, and was just, not mentioning that at all while quoting her constantly in articles. Here's Brandy Kaufman, and she's, of course, talking about the school-based health center thing, and they also mention here at the bottom, Tay Hardin-Moore, their school board candidates, and if you want to have this, then you must therefore support their candidacy. Post is less benign when you consider Brandy was the chair of the school board when she wrote this inside the Need group. Pretty sure it's a violation of law or rules, just haven't searched for it, but I'm sure it's unethical to be sure. Also wrote this, AJ Swans, May 14th. This is about helping Tay and Anais with canvassing around town so that they could get elected to the school board. And then, of course, all these statements that they constantly are thanking Tay for what she's doing. Here's Kim Warrington, who fired off a letter on August 10th to the board and Dr. Joe Mock requesting a formal public apology to be issued to Tay Hardin-Moore because she was cut off after she went over her time during a public comments meeting. As I recall, Tay Hardin-Moore went over her a lot of time. Kim has transformed this into some massive slight because she has been indoctrinated into thinking the normal rules of society do not have to apply to Tay Hardin-Moore. This, of course, is what cult leaders do to people. Convince them they deserve special exemptions they do not actually deserve. In reality, there's no need for a formal apology. Yet here Kim is demanding one and publicly letting everyone know, this is important, letting everyone know in the group that she's virtue signaling. Virtue signaling is a huge part of the Black Lives Matter framework because it is of all cults. They call it being accountable in their framework, which is just a way to emotionally motivate people to feel like they have done some enormously good deed when really they haven't done anything worthy of such praise. They are simply signaling to their group they are virtuous people, while in truth actually behaving very evil. This is how Tai talks to the people inside the group, saying the things she will not say publicly when people such as myself call her out on her nonsense. You have to take action to fight racism, otherwise your inaction is a sign of racism. That's what cults tell people. Like all cult leaders, Tai Hardin Moore claims she has the secret to something. She claims if you're not with us, you're against us. She is claiming that she will end racism. She has a secret to ending racism. This secret, she suggests, is by changing everything about our current government and society that will cause power to be redistributed. This only is effective on people who believe that something like equity depends on people of certain ethnicities or genders or whatever, all having political power and influence by virtue of these things and not due to any actual qualifications. Tai Hardin Moore seems to believe she is qualified for the power she demands of her current followers due to her education. But as I have demonstrated in my prior debate with her, the degrees she has been awarded are not worth the paper they are printed on. She is completely incapable of using logic to form her arguments because her belief system is built on a fantasy version of the world where things like blood guilt and debts are real, that morality depends on a person's sexual orientation, gender, and ethnicity, and so too does intelligence. There can be no greater proof that Tai Hardin Moore lives in a fantasy world than the article I have written, because she foolishly thought she could just ignore a, quote, cis white male such as myself, and I would just go away and be unable to do anything to stop her activities in Newberg, Oregon. After all, she has been so very effective at convincing a bunch of stupid people to join her cult and carry out her will, falsely believing themselves to be morally superior, while in actuality engaging in multiple crimes to such an extent that by the end of this article you will understand they have violated RICO laws and formed a criminal conspiracy under Oregon state law too. Evidence of hate crimes committed by Tai Hardin Moore and the Mafia group. There are several laws related to hate crimes that may be relevant to the actions of the Need Mafia group. One of them is Oregon Statute 166.155, bias crime in the second degree. They commit this crime if they tamper or interfere with property, having no right to do so, nor reasonable ground to believe that the person has such right, with the intent to cause substantial inconvenience to another person, because of the person's perception, the other person's race, color, etc., etc., etc. Bias crime in the second degree is a Class A misdemeanor. Tai Hardin Moore has previously admitted to having taken campaign signs because she wanted the candidate for office to step aside for her. Because Tai Hardin Moore is a black woman, and she didn't want to run against a white person. In a now deleted post, it says new, but it should actually be new deleted. Should be now deleted post by Becky Wallace on Facebook, and an archive of which was sent to me. Evidence was put forth that Tai Hardin Moore's political campaign had engaged in theft of candidate signage, the ones belonging to Becky Wallace, promoting her campaign and replaced that signage with that of Hardin Moore's campaign. Here are the messages I was sent by an anonymous source documenting Hardin Moore and her campaign, admitting taking the signs and replacing them with her own campaign signs. This was publicly posted into a Newberg group, I guess, in April. Here's Tai responding to posting, like, there's her sign. This is a piece of private property. Their candidate signs were there and now they're missing. She says, yes, the owner gave permission. Becky says, no, he didn't. You should research better who owns that property. Their signs need to be put back, at the very least, given back. Tai says, I appreciate your concern, but you will need to be respectful in your communications with me. Please don't accuse me and don't give me orders. Tell me what I need to do. Susan Huntington spoke with the owner and asked permission of the build owner and was given permission to add the signs and the permission to remove any signs already placed, as no other person had asked permission. She says, thank you for your feedback. Do you happen to know where the other signs can be found? She says, please contact Susan Huntington. Okay, I will. Do you have a contact for her? Thank you. Just reach out. And then they say, she's being cordial to her. So Ty says, "It's my understanding Sue has contacted you regarding how to retrieve the signs. I gave you her contact information days ago, but instead of you reaching out to her to retrieve them, as you said you would, you started making disparaging posts about me, accusing me of theft. You know I didn't steal anything, so I have to imagine that you're pushing this false story as an attempt to hurt my campaign. I'm sad for you. Sad for you that you would feel threatened by my campaign. Why not simply do as you said, let the people speak with their votes instead of spreading outright lies and information." I'm not even going to read more of this because it's a lie. Here's Susan Huntington's communications. So Becky says to her, "I'm asking if you have my signs." And Becky responds back many days later. Okay, this was on April 28th, May 1st now, many days with the campaign going on. Days lost where their property was kept for several days by Suzanne illegally. "Hi, Becky. Sorry I didn't see this message until later in the week. I have been swamped. I am friends with Mike and Jeannie and asked permission when I placed Ty's signs. Told by Jeannie that the signs could be placed. Nobody else asked permission. She said I could remove any other signs." Such a lie. Here's Becky saying that, that's not true. Must be miscommunication. Mike has said that they could be there. No permission was given to remove them. So the owner of the building says, no, they never said you could remove them. They say, I don't see any miscommunication. I communicated very clearly and followed instructions. So you don't have the permission to take other people's signs, Susan, especially when you're working for Tahart and Moore signs. And here you can see that, they've been taking people's signs. Despite what Ty Hardimore and Susan Huntington have claimed, they have committed a crime. They stole somebody else's property. They also broke election campaign laws, I believe, as well, interfering with the materials while they have a PAC. Unquestionably, this is tampering, interfering with property when they had no right to do so, nor any reasonable ground to believe they had such rights. Since the action replaced the signage with their own, it's clear the motivation was to sabotage their political opponent's campaign with acts of malfeasance. It also doesn't matter if they return the signs later. They took them for several days, and during those days of the election campaign, the signs were not used. The campaigns were deprived of their use of their property. This is theft and campaign interference. In writing this section, I reached out to Becky Wallace about this incident, asked for a comment for the public record about the situation, and she declined. At the same time the sign stealing was taking place, candidates for office who were Caucasian office. There's a typo. Candidates for office who were Caucasian were harassed and getting asked to step aside for candidates like Ty Hardimore. Here is evidence I was able to obtain. This is Brandon Buechler asking the son of Renee Powell, who ran and won election for the Newberg School Board, if he would ask his mom to not run specifically so that someone of a different ethnicity could win the election. Here you see it right there. He says, "Hi, Josh. Totally non-Magic the Gaming related question. How amenable are you? Do you think your mom would be to stepping down from the school board race in order to make room for a non-white voice on the board?" Brandon is married to, I think, Corey Jones Buechler, who is the assistant director at the Newberg Public Library. They're both deeply intertwined in the Need group and active in the efforts to indoctrinate town into the cult ideology. Here's another post by her for the Newberg Library with the first trans author of some CRT book, I think. Newberg Education in Action. Of course, they have the Taking Actions here, August 11th. Messaging and marketing merch. They have a call to action for people to help them. And who volunteers? Brandon Buechler says that he's here to help them with marketing, messaging, and merch. Of course, Corey Jones posting critical race theory books at the public library. And here she is saying, anti-racist baby for little kids. That's my plan, she says. It arrives tomorrow. I know the books by the beginning of next week. So I believe Oregon Statute 166.155, bias crime in the second degree, has been broken here, as the theft of signs by the members of the Need group was racially motivated. It was a hate crime designed to interfere with our electoral process. This plays into the criminal conspiracy, plays into the RICO stuff. What you need to understand about these particular laws, criminal conspiracy and RICO, okay? The actions of individuals within the group, other members of the group are also liable for those crimes because they are working in concerted effort with each other. So you have Susan, okay, who stole signs. Everybody who's part of NEED is guilty of that crime because that's how RICO works. RICO was designed to punish the members of an organized criminal conspiracy for all of the crimes committed by that conspiracy. I also want to mention that Ty Hardin Moore's campaign was fully supported by the NEED Mafia group and provided the evidence for that. Here's March 22nd, talking about how they're promoting Ty Hardin Moore as a candidate for the school board. Okay, NEED choose who to officially endorse for Zone 5, Tay or Bob. They chose Ty, of course. There's all the evidence for that. Okay, as you can see, the group was very involved with Ty Hardin Moore's running for office early on. The other major individual in this puzzle piece is Guadalupe Martinez Zapata, vice chair of the Department of Oregon Education, participating in the NEED thread discussing her candidacy, because she's part of that thread as well as those discussions about Ty running for school board. This will become important later when I discuss the RICO section, so keep all of this in mind. I am working my way up to the RICO claims. Okay, evidence of coordinated efforts by NEED members to manipulate public perception of past school board meetings. Prior to the past election, the NEED members had majority control of the Newberg Public School Board. These members were in the NEED group, which I think is a violation of public meeting laws because it created a quorum that created communications the public did not have access to, and then used this private group to manipulate it with other NEED members who made public comments supporting the resolution. I know this because they couldn't stop themselves from virtue signaling inside the group to earn clout and applause from other NEED members. The school board members seem to have been part of NEED since last year. I believe this because they are often tagged in conversations. The only way they could be tagged, I think, is if they are part of the groups, at least the way that they're tagging it, because they're asking them questions, okay? The replies of some of this stuff seems to be gone. But there's, right here, someone says, Brandy, did you ask for input from the board when you assigned? Brandy's message is gone, but she's like, why else would you ask somebody in the group and tag them in it? It's because she was part of the group, okay? This question of Brandy and tagging of her is proof she was a member of NEED at that time. Her reply has been deleted, but you can still see some other posts that she made in the group, such as this one from January 21st, where she's given an update on what happened at the school board level regarding the equity work. Okay, and she mentions Oregon School Board Association and everything else. Here is yet another post by her in June thanking members of NEED for sending in emails she can present to the public as support for her positions without publicly disclosing these emails all came from a group she belongs to and is a leader of, and that she asked for these emails in the first place. June 29th. Thank you everyone who's written to the board in support of Joe and Reed. I'm about a third of the way through the massive amount of emails. Overwhelming support is amazing. All illegal. Here's another one from Lost October. And she says, don't let the severity of this pass you. Take action. Work with the school board. Work with the school district. Thank you for your bravery and your vulnerability. This is all illegal communications. Based on my investigation of what posts from her or mention her remain, I think Brandy Penner very recently left the group after deleting her comments in it. This is probably because they had a major influx of members, and they probably got a little nervous by how many people were joining the group. And for good reason, because I'm in the fucking group now. Anyway, however, some old ones remain, such as this from, as I mentioned before, this one from the school board Oregon Board of Education vice chair. Another post in here saying that they'll be working together to write letters and opinion pieces to the newspapers, okay, and all that stuff. Here is a recent example of some of the manipulation of board meetings encouraged by NEED members and school board member Rebecca Pyros that shows board members like her have left and then rejoined the group. Okay, this is from June 5th. And here she is posting June 5th. As a board member, I truly value each public comment and letter. We need to hear from the community your opinions on resolutions as well as our behavior. Blah, blah, blah. As you can see, the conversation was 16 weeks ago in June 5th. Presently, Rebecca Pyros, she says that she joined 2 weeks ago. So she left it and rejoined it. 2 weeks ago is not possible, given the dates of prior posts she made into the group. This means she left the NEED group and has since rejoined it, probably believing doing so would have deleted her past post history, which it doesn't seem to have done that, has it? Recently, NEED has gained more members, around 50 in the past week. I think long-time NEED group members have been trying to hide their past activities. The past few days I investigated, but some of them forgot to delete certain communications. Proved they were actual members of NEED for a year or more. I believe this membership and the nature of their communications broke public meeting rules by establishing a quorum, and the NEED group was used by them to manipulate and control the board illegally. However, due to the removal of some posts, it's hard for me to prove that for absolute certainty. I think it's a plausible claim, though. Here is something I want to share. There's a conversation within NEED while they watched the school board meeting in August of last year when the board implemented the anti-racism resolution as a school policy. AJ Swans, Brandy Penner, Inez Pena, Rebecca Pyros were all on the board at this time. Based on what I have seen, I think they were also members of NEED or at least involved with it. Here's the official live comment stream for tonight's Newberg school board meeting here. And then I got all these conversations that they're talking about stuff and talking about critical race theory and everything else. You can read this at the original article. It's just too much for me to recite all of it. I know it's a lot. Anyone else seen Hamilton? So I want to point this out a bit because I think this is amusing. Jeff McDonough is saying, anyone else seen Hamilton? This is because they were trying to, a year ago, I believe Dave Brown was protesting the anti-racism, the critical race theory resolution, basically. And he says, you don't have the votes, you don't have the votes, you're going to need board approval and you don't have the votes. Very, very, very clever, huh? Let's see. Let's go all the way down here. Even if hypothetically Brandy Penner, Rebecca Pyros, and others weren't members of NEED at this time, despite the evidence I have to the contrary, I'm just being hypothetical. I do think that they were members. It's undeniable that NEED was influencing the anti-racism resolution vote last year from the shadows. By the way, Jeff McDonough, I noticed your little quote from Hamilton. I have my own spin on a lyric from a song in Hamilton I would like to share. If we follow the chats and see where it leads, get in the weeds, look for the seeds of NEED's misdeeds. As an aside, I find the mischaracterization of Dave Brown's statements to be immature. We don't teach Mein Kampf in the schools because ideology is dangerous and takes a great deal of maturity to read it and not be swept up into its rhetoric. This is in reference to something they were discussing within the group where they were making fun of Dave Brown because he said books can be dangerous. They said, how can a book be dangerous? Of course books can be dangerous, okay? That's why we don't teach Mein Kampf in the schools. I mean, if you're going to study Mein Kampf, I think that you first need to have a strong basis in understanding logic and rhetoric, and you probably should be in college. You should be learning it as part of a political philosophy, because if you don't understand Mein Kampf, it's hard for you to recognize other types of evil ideologies like it, and so you have to read Mein Kampf if you're going to be studying political science. It's not for the schools, though. There's absolutely no reason I can think, there's literally zero reason I could ever think why a school child should be reading Mein Kampf. So obviously we would ban Mein Kampf from the public school systems. Likewise, you don't want critical race theory shit in there either, because it's just another wrapper, right? It's just another version of Mein Kampf, really. This kind of maturity young children don't have. The idea there are books that should not be subject to study in our public school system is not a controversial one. The only reason the NEED members are upset at Dave Brown is because he's talking about their cult and the books they use to indoctrinate kids into critical race theory. Here's another recent conversation where they discuss manipulating the rules for comments so they can flood the comments with their own supporters and hide this from the board when making their requests to comment. Here's Lydia Schramm saying, what should stop adults from using the same format for commenting? I recommend we organize, say, a 1:30 comment and then have as many other people as we can fit in the last 30 seconds, cycling through just saying, I agree with this comment. So basically break the rules of public meeting laws. I believe the problem with believing that equity is more important than equality. This is the problem with believing equity is more important than equality, okay? They believe the rules should not have to apply to themselves because they feel more correct than other and therefore are allowed to do more. That's the problem with thinking equity is more important than equality, right? They start breaking the rules because they think the rules shouldn't have to apply to themselves. The NEED members engage in projection against the board members they dislike, accusing them of committing violations they themselves are making, okay? We need to get evidence, posts Elizabeth Roger Curtis Gemery, I think that's how you pronounce her last name, for how these four are communicating outside of meetings. Isn't that funny? Guaranteed they're having serial meetings. Anyone doing a Freedom of Information Act request on text, phone records, emails. Oh yeah, and they're like, yes, I've been doing this, blah, 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 blah. It's amazing. They're literally breaking these rules and talking about right now they're breaking the rules. They're breaking the rules while they're talking about other people breaking the rules. It's fantastic stuff, guys. Great job, Hazel Grace, because this is important. Hazel Grace said, thank goodness for those three, Rebecca Pyros and Brandy, who were part of the group, right? Brandy, Kaufman, Penner. They're holding them accountable. Great job, Hazel Grace. Let's tag all the school board members who are part of NEED in our conversation about how school board members aren't supposed to be participating in a group like NEED. These people are just so incredibly delusional. They aren't even self-aware that they are doing the things they accuse others of doing. Rules for thee, but not for me. That's what equity is. That's what their version of equity is, I should say. Okay? So down here. By the way, here's Megan Rogers Savanarki, I think is how you pronounce it. It's Russian. Or maybe Polish. Savanarki? Anyway, she says the case law is tricky, and she talks about Oregon Supreme Court cases and things like that. And I say, great job. Let's make sure that we tell everyone in our mafia how the law works, so nobody can claim ignorance that what we're doing is illegal, because we're trying to prove the people we don't like are committing the crimes we already are committing. The problem with motivated reasoning: cult members become so fixated on only considering things that support their ideology, they disregard anything that doesn't support the narrative, to where they can literally be committing the crimes they accuse others of doing with no evidence of those crimes. And they don't see how they themselves are the guilty ones of those crimes. Virtue signaling isn't justice, it's just narcissism. Okay? I rest my case. They're aware of what they're doing is wrong. They did it anyway because they feel they are right. That's motivated reasoning. I honestly think after reading this stuff from the teaching community in Newberg, we have to purge the whole school system, as I mentioned before. The only way we can fix this is by reintroducing logic and rhetoric with new teachers. Try to heavily emphasize this to get these kids unbrainwashed from the madness they've been taught by these cult lunatics in NEED. NEED Group has, of course, also continued to use its members to manipulate public perception about issues. Here's Rebecca Swindle. And, of course, they're talking about the organizing task to reach out to press, I believe is what this is about. We're asking friends and community to write, appreciate, help with specific talking points, blah, blah, blah. Brandy Penner making a similar request in the NEED Group. Highlighted this part from Emily Sterkson, said, give the district council on the meeting to explain the risks. This is about the lawsuits. This is where I talk about the lawsuits here. Now, Emily Garrison says to Brandy Penner, who's a member of the group, okay, August 8th, she was still a member of the group, and she says that she's preparing for the August 10th meeting. And as part of those questions, Emily says, are you prepared for the ACLU to sue the school district? I want to press upon them the financial impact this move might have and explain the risks, is what Megan Corvus says to do. This highlighted part should be viewed as intimidation, because NEED is the one working with the ACLU to sue the school district. I talk about that. I show them talking about all that stuff. Okay? Cults and confirmation bias don't mix well. I believe their interpretation of the law, such as the Hatch Act, are wrong for all the reasons I explained in this article, because they also talked about the Hatch Act and why they think that they're not breaking it. I know it's a lot to take in. You're going to have to read the article, but at least my narration might help you get the basic gist of what I'm claiming here and what I'm showing as evidence for their crimes. All of this is evidence of manipulation of the school board. I think may also be a violation of public meeting laws. Let's look at what the Oregon Department of Justice website says about the activities of school board members in the NEED Group. Quorum participation. A gathering of less than a quorum of a governing body is not a meeting. However, members of a governing body should not gather as a group or groups composed of less than a quorum for the purpose of conducting business outside the public meetings law. Such a gathering creates the appearance of impropriety, runs contrary to the policy of the public meetings law, supports keeping the public informed of the deliberations of governing bodies. In addition, such a gathering creates a risk of violating 192.630 Section 2 through serial communications. A governing body risks violating meeting laws through a series of private communications, even if a quorum isn't involved in any single communication. Court of Appeals held the county administrator's emails and phone calls with various board members deliberating towards a resolution of a public records request could be a violation, even though no single email or phone call involved a quorum. What defines whether it's a quorum or not a violation is what they discuss and the purpose for which they discuss it. They are probably violating the laws. That's what I think that they're doing. I think they're very obviously used by Penner, Pyros, and Pina to communicate and plan how to carry out their duties as school board members. That's why they are members of the need group. While we cannot see their personal Facebook messages between each other, to see the whole scope of the communications between them, the evidence I have shown here proves Penner and Pyros have coordinated with need and consequently each other in planning for future board meetings and other business of the school board. And they've been doing this for like a year. It's also true the need group was a major campaign contributor to Pina's election to the school board itself, as I have shown in screenshots in this article. As such, I believe these three school board members, who are the members of need, are violating the spirit of the public meeting laws, have developed invisible and illegal government as part of a criminal conspiracy against the school district. They should be removed from the school board by civil lawsuits, if not criminal charges, brought by district attorney. Furthermore, part of public meeting law is labor negotiations. This is specifically what school boards, are part of their duties, is having labor negotiations. If you recall from earlier in this article, the Newberg Education Association, the teachers union, President Jennifer Snyder and Vice President Drew Gallagher are active members of the group, as are many other members of the union. Okay, here's proof again that they're part of it. It's my belief that due to the presence of so many members of the Newberg Education Association within the need group, and the group therefore being an extension of the union's activities, Rebecca Pyros, Brandy Penner, and Inez Penna are violating public law through their secretive meetings with the union behind the backs of the other Newberg School Board members, working in concert with them to remove their rivals on the school board from office with recalls and a campaign of harassment. It's all incredibly unethical and, I think, illegal. The remedy for their actions and behavior is to use laws they have broken against them, civil penalties laws, up to fines of up to $1,000 per instance of violation. And there's many instances of violation I've already shown. This isn't even like the full weight. I got so many more screenshots, you wouldn't even believe it. Every instance is a $1,000 violation. Okay? Fine. You can click this link to file your own complaint against them and report them to the government, Oregon state government, for these violations. Evidence of coordinated harassment by the Mafia to intimidate any citizen who dissents. The Need Cult Mafia doesn't only go after school board members. Anyone who disagrees with them gets harassed. Here's an example of harassing people who participate in school board meetings who speak in favor of the Black Lives Matter flag ban. Aaron McCarthy, September 22nd. The person who threw up the white supremacist hand gesture while speaking the words Black Lives Matter is named Isaac Etherington. He lives in McVinville. And she's talking about the live stream school board meeting that took place on September 22nd. Somebody was against Black Lives Matter. She accuses him of throwing up a white supremacist hand gesture, which I don't think that it is. And she reveals his information so they can go and harass him. Okay. Here's another example. Chelsea RS, on August 24th, thanks who came to this evening being the flagpole in the center of town protest rally that they hold every Friday. They said there's an incident where some bicyclists harassed some young people. I don't think that there was some bicyclists harassing some young people. I think what actually occurred is that they're blocking the sidewalk and people couldn't get across to the other side of the highway because they're blocking the sidewalk that divides the highway. So I think that's what actually occurred. Here's all the people that liked this post where they were sharing information, private information about these individuals. And you'll see within this is Lupita, okay, the vice chair. Guadalupe Martinez Zapata, vice chair, Oregon Department of Education, who liked this post, as well as Morgan Corvus, who, as previously mentioned, she is the part of the Democratic Party here in Yamhill County. She's one of the organizers for it. She liked the post. So did a bunch of other people, including Susan Huntington. Okay. And here they are sharing all their personal information about these people, their faces and photos and where they work, so they can track them down and harass them and do coordination. And you know what? I don't think that these Antifa tactics are good. So I'm going to expose who was providing doxing information, basically, about private individuals so they could harass them. Alexa Kaplan, okay, she's one of the people that provided personal information about them. And Rachel Kendall Adams, she's another one of them. Elena Murphy, she's another one of them as well. Alyssa Lafkin Larkin. These people all, Chelsea RS is Chelsea Schatz, who claims that she works as a behavioral interventionist at Newberg School District, but she's listed in it as an education assistant working in Dundee. Okay. She also had a nice little news article about herself written by NBC, who obviously didn't do any real research before investigating these people. And here's proof that she works for the school. That's enough for the victims of their harassment to get justice via civil lawsuits. There was no legitimate reason for them to ask other members of need to target them for harassment just because they were upset they were blocking the sidewalk. Evidence of intentions to organize violent mobs. At the time I investigate, NEED is starting to teach its members the violent tactics of Antifa, which includes using people as human shields. This is incorrectly labeled as de-escalation training, another one of their attempts to redefine words, when it's actually intended to escalate violence at demonstrations. Here's Charis Bach, who I believe is a professor at George Fox University, organizing and talking about how he wants to, he's looking for people that want to participate in de-escalation training, which he defines as training about rights, why it's important to stand up to white supremacists, rather than who would feel easier. Now, of course, white supremacists in their idea is anybody who disagrees with their opinions, okay? Like the previous people that they harassed. Here's Heather Ann saying, I want to see a version of the Wall of Moms. Note that, like I said before, they're talking about de-escalation and then saying stand up to white supremacists. That's not what de-escalation training is. De-escalation training is how to calm down a situation so it doesn't become confrontational, like to end the confrontation of it. Saying that you want to do this to stand up to people is the exact opposite of what de-escalation training is supposed to do. It's a contradiction. They're just reframing words to hide what they're actually doing. Of course, Wall of Moms is a reference to the creation of a human shield wall by Antifa to attack the Portland courthouse, using a wall of women to shield protesters throwing Molotov cocktails, firecrackers, and bottle rockets. I'm going to show a quick clip here so you can see what I'm talking about. This is what the Wall of Moms is about.
Down, keeping it away from the public. They shouldn't have to deal with this.
This is what they're talking about doing in Newberg.
Chemical resisting. I think that's.
Tell my kid be careful of reaching in your pockets when you're out here. We're not out here peacefully. We're out here non-violently.
Right here.
That's what they want to do. So, using a wall of women to shield protesters throwing Molotov cocktails, firecrackers, and bottle rockets, and using laser pointers to permanently blind police officers attempting to protect the courthouse from becoming burned down. That's what they're planning to do here in Newberg. And of course, Megan Corvus is all part of this. See, she's giving them advice and information. The website Megan Corvus, a rep for Yamhill County Democrats, linked to is Up in Arms. It's designed to encourage people to form angry mobs to protest and counter-protest other protest groups, specifically militia groups associated with the far right. The website is also designed to encourage people to resist against ICE immigration enforcement efforts as well. Like many of these groups, you must focus on the consequences of its actions and not what words they specifically use. They are well versed in propaganda and teach others how to frame their words to obscure their actual intentions, as shown in this part of the guide. The guide that was, shared by Megan Corvus to that professor who's organizing the Wall of Moms thing. Event framing. Be clear on your flyers, press releases, and posters promoting your event. It is meant to be peaceful. This framing from the start helps send a community-wide message about what your event is and who is participating. And then it says at the bottom here, it doesn't help. It helps set the stage so that anyone trying to disrupt the event will look bad. Framing is a propaganda technique. Okay, propaganda technique. Here's a Wikipedia article on it. Framing, social sciences. Framing is a social construction of a social phenomenon, often by mass media sources, political or social movements, other actions. It is an inevitable process of collective influence over their perception of the meaning attributed to words or phrases. Framing is about changing the perception of people's opinions about something based on how you change the meaning of words. That's what framing is. That's something that they're commonly doing. Evidence of stalking Newberg school board members. Here's photos of them stalking school board members around town to monitor them as they met with press. And here's a whole long thing about this, okay? All the videos and everything. Evidence of coordinated efforts by the Mafia to intimidate school board members to change their votes or resign. This is going to be a really meaty piece of this. I'm going to put this into a next video all by itself because I really want people to see this part. So see me in the next video. I guess it'll be part 4. And we will go over the specific claims about how they've coordinated efforts to intimidate and harass school board members and why that's illegal and why this makes this part of their, this RICO situation.